Renowned photographer and anti-apartheid activist Dr. Peter Magubane has passed away. Magubane was born on January 18th, 1932 in Vrededorp, and he's one of South Africa's most distinguished award-winning photojournalists, and he grew up and completed his high school in Sophiatown. Let's now reflect on his legacy with Professor Pikita Ntuli, who's a poet, academic, as well as an academic, and SANEF Project Manager Hopewell Radebe, who both join us live now. Firstly, let me thank you so much for your time and say Happy New Year to both of you. It's a pleasure to speak to you on this New Year's Day. But let's start then with, the developments this afternoon. Said certainly something very sad, and even speaking to his family earlier on, Dr. Peter Magubane's family talking about just how he was unwell, but they're still sad nonetheless. Hopefully, let me start with you on SANEF's reaction to his passing.
A very good day or afternoon to all listeners. It was really indeed a sad day for us, or it is a sad day for us, because it's a least that we expected. We knew that Ubaba Magubane has not been well for some time, but yet he has remained a soldier and never wavered on making time to go and do training to many photojournalists, and he had been a guest in many areas where he would go, either universities or colleges of where there are training of journalism, and to make presentation and share with a lot of journalists, young photographers and journalists in general, about his experiences and why journalists should remain one of those great crafts and professions that should not be corrupted or should not waver on its journey of being what we call ensuring media freedom in the country. So it is a sad day for all of us.
And Professor Ntuli?
For me, this is absolutely one of the very saddest news, because the name Peter Magubane carries a lot of memories. He was right there for the 50s, 60s, 70s, with a very powerful drama magazine, with the Ken Chambers, the Blog Bodhisana, Ezekiel Mphahlele. He'd been doing very, very fantastic job as a photo journalist, and very courageous too, and published photos which the government just didn't even want to. That's why he ended up at some stage to be detained for about 590 days because of what his eye has seen through his camera and what he produced.
And Professor Ntuli, I'd like us to stay with that, because it is that courage as well that saw him going when, you think about the fact that at some point his house being torched as well, and his life being threatened, and also, as you say, him finding himself in detention as well. But that didn't deter him. In fact, it made him even grow stronger in his craft.
Definitely. He had a very defiant streak, in it. For instance, when he saw a black girl sitting next to a sign that was saying Europeans only, and he took that picture. And once you publish a picture such as that and send it abroad, you are throwing the wrath of the apartheid regime. But his artistic quest and communication demanded that the people must exactly see visually what the apartheid is actually doing.
And Hopewell, I'm seeing some of the visuals that we're running here. One of them, he is with, someone that we all know very well in the industry, Ntate. And really, when you think about this caliber of photojournalists, this caliber of journalists who really contributed immensely, they've really paved the way for a lot of us who continue on this craft today.
Indeed, my lady. When I remember, how I'll remember Dr. Magubane is that there were times where he acted in a controversial way. There is one incident, in fact, I understand there may have been three, where when he was taking pictures of a young man being stabbed and by people in the neighborhood and being suspected of being what you call a spy, he came to a point where he put his camera down and told the young people to stop doing that and sort of intervened. It is one of those things that is always debated in journalism. Do you put your camera down and stop what would be a killing? and you witness it, or do you step in as a father and a leader as well in the community and try to educate and ensure that there is no such incident going forward? And he always tried to justify that. I remember him addressing some journalists at the university, and they were questioning him for that. And he kind of said, there comes a time where you have to decide whether you are just a photographer or a journalist and you are doing your job, or where when you see that this affects you as well, this is your child as he saw it in that day, and you step forward and said, this is enough, this has to stop. You don't even have the evidence for what you are doing, and you can't be doing this, it's against the law. And he kind of appealed to the better nature of those youngsters who were almost about to kill somebody else. So he's going to be remembered as the journalist who just did not do his job. But there came a time when leadership called, when fatherhood called. He did what he felt was also part of his responsibility as a member of community, as a parent, to kind of guide the insanity, or kind of stop the insanity that he was witnessing happening there. So I will always remember him as a person, but who never feared to face up to what the decisions that he took. And they may have been controversial at times, but he kind of always said that we come from certain backgrounds, and if we reach a stage where things are wrong, we should say it. I remember, just as a parting shot, he recorded one of the incidents of children who are being used or abused by coal yard people who are selling coal. And they were using very young children to take this coal around community and selling it, and obviously not being paid. And he called this child slavery. And he challenged it, he documented it, published it, and confronted the businesses of those people in Soweto who were abusing those children. He said, this is wrong. We can't be going on like this. And indeed, he published and got it stopped somehow to a certain extent, because it continued to happen in the background. But that was the kind of a person he is. He would not shy away from exposing African business people or African leaders if they were doing it. As much as he fought against apartheid, he said we should also confront our own leaders if they are getting out of hand, including the business people.
And it speaks to the activist, that was in Dr. Magubane. And Professor Ntuli, I wonder for you, what are some of the personal moments that you remember?
Remember, he lives in Diepkloof. And 3 minutes from his house, my monument made out of metal and so on for the Silverton tree is there. And he knew the Silverton tree people. So when I was working in building this monument, we met quite a lot. I even said to him, I'm appointing you to guard my work here and educate the young children who sit there and tell the story of what is happening. So he was there when we called, my wife and I, when we were about to launch that sculpture. We got the 3 families, the Mafuko, the Makubo, and Mandela, families of the Silverton tree. So while we're in it there, somebody said to me, these young people are so lucky that you are the one making this statue because they loved you. I said, no. I didn't know them, but it's a long story. I had saved their lives when we were in detention in Swaziland, but I did not know. So then the book was produced, and Magubane was also there, and said to me, it looks like we share just one thing, you and I. We can't keep our heads, out of problems if we really believe, in it. And now and again, when we talk to each other on the phone, he will say to me, I'm still guarding your statue. Your statue is still there, but then you have to pay me money. And we had also a very interesting, set of humor. And sitting and talking to him, you get the entire history of what Zonk magazine, the Drum magazine, what happened in the 60s with Sobukwe and all. He is an encyclopedia of our struggles, the encyclopedia of our commitment to justice, to peace, and to reconciliation.
Yeah, and you know, you think about the fact that at some point him becoming Madiba's official photographer following his release from prison. You think about how he captured the 1976 uprisings. You think about every image that he captured, that march by the women against, you know, the past laws at the time. Every image that he captured tells a story, and it certainly speaks of somebody who really had a passion for what he did. And to both of you then, before I let you go, I'm going to start with you, Professor Ntuli, and come to you, Hopewell. What for you becomes his legacy, those footprints that he leaves in the journalism fraternity?
I mean, I think that, his photography, the photography of, you know, Ernest Cole, Alf, Kumalo and all, those are the things that should be in our universities in order to say this is where we have been. This is how we were brutalized. This is how we fought back. This is how we actually got killed. His whole work is, in a sense, an encyclopedia of struggle, of hope, and of forgiveness.
Hopewell?
My lady, you know, I had a privilege to see some of his work doing exhibitions in some of the galleries in South Africa. And I had a privilege to see and talk to him when he was addressing students, because I myself happened to be one of those students that he addressed during his career. But one thing he always emphasized, that he asked us to be always brave. He said there will be things that you do, but one thing that you should never do is to contribute to keeping silent about things that are done to Africans. And you being an African, you are duty bound to make sure that you spare no one. You do not do people favors. When you have to do a story and take a photograph and you expose, even if it's your own leader, don't be afraid to do that, because it will always be in your conscience for the rest of your life. If you had not done it, you'll always look at this leader doing things and wish you had done something. And he gave examples about what happened in Zimbabwe or what happened in other countries like Uganda, where former leaders, people like Idi Amin, ended up being murderers and killing their own people, and journalists in those countries wishing they'd done something before their leaders went that far out of the way and became worse than what they thought would be. He said, you will always believe that people will do better, that they will change. But make sure that they change. Make sure that you report and fairly and sincerely and accurately what you need to do. So he asked us to be very brave and to make sure that we avoid having the conscience that is subdued, that kind of feel that I cannot be the one that exposes my leaders. He said, we have done our best to fight against apartheid. Yes, it was known who's the enemy, but you have the worst enemy. It will be people in your background. It is people that you grew up believing that they'll be the best and they will pull us out of all the scandals, out of corruption. But they may be the one that do those things. So he built in some of us that resilience, that ability to foresee things and to make sure that we report fairly and sincerely without fear or favor. And I think the journalists that are following will do that to honor him.
Definitely. Let me thank you so much, both of you, for your time. I do appreciate it, sharing these important reflections on a life that contributed so much to the industry that we know now, as journalism that we enjoy and really have the resolve to tell the stories. That was Professor Pikita Ntuli, poet and academic, and SANEF Project Manager Hopewell Radebe.